Righto, so 11 days has passed since I first started to try and get a renovation done on this putting green. Now, obviously I got the putting green renovated in the sense of a short mow, a shave, a deep groom, I guess. I didn't actually need to scarify, but we did scarify the surrounds. Everything came up fantastically. Now, what I'm doing now is, because as I said, been 11 days, we've got a little bit of growth, a little bit of rubbish from the rain washing stuff about. Just going over the green again now at that same height. I think it was 3 mils or somewhere there. I'd have to check. And then the surrounds, I'm going over at 7 mils. Doesn't really need to be any lower than that, because obviously going forward, our cutting height this season, due to the height restrictions on that new ride-on greens mower, is 12 mils. So 7 to 12 is fine. We'll get a top dress on that as well. So today, we're going to top dress, fertilise, and a few other bits and pieces. But before we start, let's just have a little look-see. Now, I mentioned in the last video that we had actually now sprayed out the eagle. Now, most of the eagle is responding to that Roundup very, very well. We've got a few little green patches, and obviously I will go over that again. Our little plugs here, they're easy to kill because they're not as established. So there is 1 or 2 patches here, where Max has had a little scratch. So that one there wants a little bit more of the good stuff. And there might have been one other little patch somewhere there maybe. But they will get 2 or 3 doses before we go any further. This here, you can see some green tinges, and that would merely be grass that was pushing through, that was sheltered and protected by what was above it. So it does take a few goings over to get rid of it, but needless to say, it'll go. Replacing it once again with our zoysia here, as you can see, continuing to shine, continuing to look fantastic, and I really can't wait to see that all the way along to the end. In years gone by, I've actually used a shovel and top dressed by hand. This year, I'm fortunate enough to be able to try the new Master Top Dresser 575. Now, these are actually made in Germany from a company called Green 100, and they're imported into Australia by Old Time Parts. So Jason at Old Time Parts, quite a few months ago now, when he was passing through, he dropped this in for me to try, and I've been itching to give it a go. As I've got a fairly large area here, anything that's going to make my life that much easier is a good thing in my book. So what we'll do today is, not only will we use it, we'll have a little look over it. First impressions, very solid, and probably typically German in its over-engineering, right down to, I've noticed, it actually features dust caps on the grease nipples. So a lot of thought has gone into this machine, and it is very sturdy, very solid, and I'm really keen to get it to go. So let's just chuck a little bit of sand in it and have a little play around. There's some settings on this that we can adjust, so we can adjust the amount of sand that this deposits. So as I said, let's fill it up. Let's have a look at the different settings, see how much it puts out. We'll find a setting that's suitable for me and what I want to do in the green here, and we'll hook in. The manufacturer recommends the sand to have about a 30% moisture content. Now, probably a little bit hard to gauge that sort of a figure. This is a damp sand. I'm not exactly certain if it's 30%, but it's not saturated, so that's a good thing. Now, I've got it shut off as much as I can shut it off just to move it down. So what we'll do, we'll just open up to the first setting now. On the side, we've got a few little serrated edges. 1, 2, 3, there's 4 serrated edges, but really it's probably got an infinite amount of adjustments. But let's just go on the 4 different serrated edges, and that'll give us a fairly good basis on which to base how much we're gonna let come out of the hopper. So we just loosen the screws at the bottom here, and I'll open it up to the first serration. So that should be the minimum, one of the minimum settings. Okay, so that's a pretty light amount. If we come backwards, don't go backwards. Doesn't like backwards. Okay, well that really does, thank you Max, that really does make life a lot easier. Now I'm not sure if my sand's a little bit wet. This light one would be fantastic for just a light dusting. So for a green on the light setting, I'd probably personally use dry sand going forward. The next setting you can see a little bit more, it was a little bit clumpy on this side, but again, I'm going to put it down to sand. This won't be the last time I'm going to use this, but given the amount of rain we've had, just not sure. Again here, we start to get the third setting. You can really start to see a good amount of sand getting dropped out. And the fourth one here dumps a heap of sand, and that would be really good for leveling a new lawn. So I will probably use that setting there when we go out the front down the track, when the sand turns up and I can do the tiff tough. So I'm thinking that setting there is going to be ideal for new established turf. I'm going to be somewhere between these two, I think, today. For the green, and maybe this setting here, maybe setting number 3, seems easy to push, but as I said, I'm only working on flat ground as well. So let's hook in. First impressions of the master top dresser. Now, this sand could be a little bit drier. I can't do anything about that yet, simply because the weather's so unpredictable at the moment. The concept is here, and it certainly saves me a lot of time. I top dressed this whole green in not a lot of time and did not raise a sweat. Now, you'll notice there's probably a few little bits and pieces where it didn't come through evenly. Again, it's to do with the sand not feeding down through the hopper because of the how wet it is. Obviously, it's more than 30%. I would actually like to see the sand a lot drier, not perfectly dry, otherwise it's just going to fall straight through on its own. It has to have some moisture in it, but I think this is slightly too wet. Now, as for the little misses and stuff, I'm still not too worried about that, and the reason is we've still got to push this around with a level lawn yet. So we've still got sand on the green here. It's fairly even, it's fairly uniform. I'm not upset by that. The amount looks to be pretty good. By the time we push this in and around, obviously this wind's going to help us dry this sand right out. I'm going to go around the surround with this now. I've had a little flick through the specifications of this in the book. Now, the book I've got with this is still written in German, and my German isn't the best, but I managed to piece together a few bits and pieces. Hopper capacity is 71 or 75 litres, and particle size, in other words, material size, recommended material size up to 2 millimeters. So this sand here is just normal sand that you'd find, you know, at a beach or whatever. So it's sort of, you know, that normal sort of beach sand size. but up to 2 mils is fine. I wouldn't really recommend putting anything through that's got recycled material in it, so any of those garden mixes that you get from the landscape shop that sell it as top dress, probably not ideal for this sort of design. But anything that's sort of sandy and uniform, up to 2 mils, would be ideal. Now, it moves along quite well when it's full. It is a little bit heavy, but it's not too heavy you can't use it, and you certainly wouldn't want the hopper any bigger. So this green here, about 150, off the top of my head, about 150 square meters of green, and I've done it in next to no time. So yeah, you fill it up a few times, but you're not putting much in it when you do it. So yeah, look, check them out. They're on the Old Time Parts website there, and yeah, so far, reasonably happy. I can't wait to try it out, and I will try it out when the sand is drier and we do go at the front, but first impressions, not too bad. So we're getting towards the pointy end now of our renovation. The sand, as you can see, has rubbed in really well. So although that sand went through that top dresser a little bit wetter than, I guess, what they recommend and what was ideal, we've had, look, the end result is fine. By the time you spread it out with your leveling device, so your Levelon, etc., as you can see, it's done a really good job, and it really did save me a lot of time. Now, we've got our old friend here, time to chuck down our acceloprin now. Most of you will be well aware what this stuff is. It's a very, very safe product to interact with people and pets and so forth. This will give us essentially up to 6 months control for our pests. So, you know, example, our black beetles, our armyworms, etc. So we'll chuck him out. Also going to put down some of the Plant Doctor. This is their mini prill greens grade fertilizer. So going to use the upper rate of this, the 4 kilos per 100 square meters. Really going to smash a bit of food into it because it's been quite some time since this green's had any at all, and I want to get it back through the sand as quick as I can. So we'll chuck this stuff out now. Hopefully later on this afternoon, when the wind dies down, I can put some water on and give it a drink. Now, providing your ground is dry, like this is dry, it's sunny, it's windy, it's dusty, this stuff can sit quite safely on the leaf until the next day. But if it was damp, or if it was in a situation where it could start to break down, in other words, if this was dewy, or you're getting a little tiny misty shower come through but not enough to wash it in, that's when you're potentially going to get something like fertilizer burn. But because we've got this dusty dry, you can quite safely put this on the leaf and not have to worry about it watering it in straight away. So going to sort of chuck it out now, hope that as the sun goes down, the wind dies down, that's sort of generally how it plays out, and then I can give it a bit of a drink. Now, I don't want to give it a huge amount because it's really only washing in fertilizer and this ground is wet enough, but I need to wash it in. So that's where we're up to now. We've jumped forward now 5 days. So we did the top dressing, we did the fertilizing and all that sort of stuff on the Saturday. Today is Thursday before you see this video. And on the Monday night, we actually received a huge amount of rainfall for us. So like most people in Australia right now, we've been getting a lot of rain. And it's a double-edged sword. A lot of rain is good, but too much rain is not a good thing. We got 55 millimeters of rain overnight, and I was expecting to see a lot of damage, but actually, to my surprise, we actually did pretty well. Got this section here, which is normally my trouble spot. This is normally my low section, and it sort of holds a bit of water because it raises up here a little bit before it sort of can get away. And that was probably a design fault on my account when I built this green back in the day, and something that I'll rectify going forward. But you'll see here, it's actually lifted up and deposited some granular gypsum that I actually found in the shed that I forgot that I had, and I put that down off camera afterwards when I found it. I'll try and push this back over with a level on, see if I can get it to move back over into the more uniform, into that section there. We did actually get some washout here. So this sand here near Max was actually up here, and the sort of channel down here, you can see where the water came flooding down here, taking it with it and sort of depositing it on this patch of zoysia, carrying it through to the concrete, etc. Now, I will try and push that back through up there, and the remaining bit I'll try and spread nicely over here. But other than that, we've actually come off pretty well. Really happy with the recovery, particularly the surround. A lot of nice new growth on it. And the green is doing really, really well too, considering that we took it right down again, and it's only been, what, a few days since we put the sand down. So I reckon I'd probably say after the weekend, probably looking to give it its first post renovation mow, probably Monday afternoon. It'll be just a light mow, and it'll probably be a very sandy mow too, but once I'm convinced that that is actually done and there's no more sand, I feel it's going to be another trip down to Trent, down at Central Coast Cylinder Mowers, to show that Greens Master a bit of love, because by golly have I absolutely abused it doing this renovation. But anyway, quick update in the same video for you guys. Hope you have a fantastic weekend, and we'll catch you here next time on the Aussie Lawn.